I smell pine and cinnamon when I walk through the door of my father's new house. Christmas Eve dinner, an obligation I've been dreading for weeks. My name is Ethan Carter, 23 years old, architecture student when I can afford classes between warehouse shifts. Grandfather Thomas greets me with a firm hug that feels like coming home. He's flown in from Denver for the holidays, a rare appearance that explains why I received an actual phone call invitation instead of the usual last-minute text. There he is, Thomas says, clapping my shoulder. How's the house working out? Settling in nicely? I glance at him, confused. What house? The room goes quiet. My father, Richard, freezes by the dining table where he's arranging silverware. Tracy, my stepmother, suddenly becomes very interested in adjusting a centerpiece. Thomas's eyebrows draw together. The house I bought you 2 years ago. His voice has an edge now. Richard said you needed a foundation to build from. $480 I wired him. For you specifically. The pine scent turns sickly sweet as understanding crashes over me. 2 years ago. Right when they invited me to dinner at their new place. The house with the strange family photos where I was suddenly included after years of being excluded from family pictures. The photos that disappeared when I used the bathroom. I don't have a house, I say quietly. I rent an apartment on Hawthorne. 1 bedroom with bad plumbing. Thomas turns to my father. Richard, what's going on here? Dad, there's been a misunderstanding, Richard says, hands raised placatingly. We use that money for the family. Ethan's part of the family. That's not what we discussed, Thomas says, voice hardening. I was very clear. That money was for Ethan's house, his name on the deed. I think about my childhood after Mom died. The attic bedroom I was given when Tracy moved in with her son Liam. The secondhand clothes, while Liam got designer labels. The "we can't afford college for you right now" conversations while Liam attended private school. I remember dinners where my achievements went unacknowledged, while Liam's C+ in algebra earned a celebration. The family vacations I learned about through social media posts. The graduation party I wasn't invited to until Thomas asked if he could see pictures of me in my cap and gown. My half-brother Liam walks in from the kitchen. What's happening? Your parents stole nearly $500,000, Thomas says flatly, money that was meant for your brother. Tracy's voice rises, shrill and defensive. That's not fair. We've supported Ethan his whole life. You've been sending me photos of him at family gatherings for 2 years. Thomas continues, pulling out his phone, telling me how happy he is in the house I bought him. He turns the screen toward me. There I am, smiling at Thanksgiving dinner. Another at Christmas morning. Photos I never posed for, clearly edited to include me in their perfect family narrative. I say nothing. Let them talk. Let them scramble and deny and accuse. I watch my father's face, the tightening around his eyes, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. I've spent years learning to read these micro-expressions, learning when to make myself scarce, when a storm was brewing. Thomas stands abruptly. Pack your bags, Ethan. You're coming to Denver with me. We'll fix this. Richard steps forward. Now wait a minute. No, Thomas cuts him off. I've waited long enough. You have until January to explain where every penny went, or I'm calling the police. Back at my apartment later that night, I pack methodically. 3 changes of clothes, toiletries, my architecture textbooks and drawing supplies, my mother's photo. I leave behind the threadbare furniture, the mismatched dishes, the patched blankets. None of it matters. I take inventory as I drive to meet Thomas at his hotel. I have $847 in savings. A part-time night job that barely covers rent. 2 years of sporadic community college classes when I could afford them. But I also have evidence now, and a grandfather who sees me. We'll get you enrolled at University of Colorado, Thomas says as we leave the city limits. Architecture program. Their spring semester starts in 3 weeks. I watch the city shrink in the rearview mirror, the place where I struggled to survive while my father lived in a house bought with money meant for me. Education first, I tell him. Justice second. Thomas nods, understanding exactly what I mean. 2 days later, I sit at Thomas's dining room table, surrounded by stacks of paper, property records, bank statements, printed photos that stretch back 2 years. My grandfather's laptop is open beside me, the screen illuminating columns of numbers that tell a story I'm still struggling to comprehend. Found something else, Thomas says, sliding a folder across the polished wood. His voice is calm, but his eyes spark with controlled anger. Inside is a property record for the house on Maple Street. Purchase date: the 17th of December, exactly 2 years ago. 3 days after Thomas wired the money to my father. The buyer is listed as Richard Carter, sole owner. My name appears nowhere on the document. The timing matches perfectly, I say, adding it to our evidence pile. And look at this. I point to a bank statement showing a $50,000 cash withdrawal from my father's account the same day as closing. Money that disappeared completely from the electronic trail. Convenient, Thomas mutters. I turn back to the laptop, scrolling through the emails my father sent Thomas over the past 2 years. Each one includes photos of family gatherings, where I'm supposedly enjoying my new home. Christmas morning opening presents. Summer barbecue in my backyard. Thanksgiving dinner at my dining table. I study one photo closer. The lighting is slightly off around my figure. The shadow beneath my arm doesn't quite match the angle of the other shadows in the room. They photoshopped me into these, I say quietly. All of them. Thomas leans over my shoulder. They sent a new one every month, always talking about how grateful you were for the house, how well you were doing. I notice another detail. The clothes I'm wearing in these doctored photos. The same 3 shirts, recycled across different images. Shirts I actually own. They must have taken pictures when I wasn't looking during my rare visits, then edited me into their family scenes later. The betrayal expands beyond the house as I dig deeper into the paperwork. Thomas's lawyer delivered this morning. Look at these, I say, spreading out documents showing monthly support payments of $1,500 allegedly for my living expenses and education. Payments that continued for 24 consecutive months. I never saw a penny of this. Thomas nods grimly. I trusted Richard to manage it. The money was specifically earmarked for you. I find university correspondence, next including acceptance letters from architecture programs I applied to but never heard back from. Each one shows a different scholarship offer. Each one was addressed to my father's house, not my apartment. They intercepted my mail. I say, the realization burning in my chest. I thought I'd been rejected everywhere. The most damning evidence comes in tuition statements for Liam's private university payments matching almost exactly the supposed education fund Thomas established for me. The dates align with each of Thomas's deposits. I line everything up chronologically, measuring the damage. The house, $480,000. The diverted monthly support payments, $36,000. The education funds meant for my architecture degree, now spent on Liam's business administration program, $84,000. The total approaches $600,000. But the financial theft feels secondary to what was truly stolen. Years of my life. The architecture career I should have already started. The foundation I was meant to build upon. I think about the cramped apartment where I've spent nights sketching building designs by lamplight after exhausting warehouse shifts. It wasn't just emotional neglect. I say, the words tasting bitter. This was calculated. They didn't just forget about me. They actively worked to keep me struggling while they used my name to get more money. Thomas places a hand on my shoulder. The lawyer called while you were in the shower. They've secured a temporary freeze on Richard's accounts until this is sorted. I nod, feeling the first solid victory. I received confirmation of enrollment at UC Denver's architecture program this morning. Classes start next week. Thomas smiles. Good. That's what matters now. I gather the papers into organized stacks, my mind racing. Criminal charges would be justified forgery, fraud, identity theft. Part of me wants immediate justice, wants to see my father's face when officers arrive at his door. The anger feels hot and justified in my chest. But another path emerges in my thoughts. Strategic patience. Building my case methodically while focusing on my education first. The architecture program will demand my full attention. A rushed confrontation might mean sacrificing the very opportunity I've been denied for years. I look at the enrollment confirmation again. I think we need to be methodical about this. Quick justice is tempting, but patience might yield a more complete victory. Thomas studies me for a moment, then nods. You sound like your mother. She always played the long game. I smile at the comparison. It's the first time I've felt connected to her memory in years. Let's build the foundation first, I say, tapping the stack of evidence we've gathered. Then we'll construct something they can't tear down. At the present, 2 days later, the lawyer's office smells like leather and lemon polish when I arrive for our scheduled meeting, all before Richard and Tracy are due to show. Time to prepare. They filed a countersuit, Thomas's lawyer, miss," Harrington says, sliding a document across the polished mahogany. "Your father claims the money was explicitly for the family, not specifically for you." I scan the paperwork, my architecture training helping me identify structural weaknesses in his argument. He's claiming I was included in the family despite never living in the house. Exactly. She taps her pen against a highlighted paragraph. "They're arguing your grandfather's funds were general family support, not earmarked for you personally." I nod, adding the document to my growing file of evidence. "What else?" "There's more," Thomas says, entering with coffee for each of us. His face carries the weight of fresh betrayal. "Tracy called Carter Development yesterday. Told HR you've been unreliable, showing up late to shifts, leaving early." My stomach tightens. I haven't even started working there yet. I know. Thomas sets the coffee down harder than necessary. She's trying to poison the well. "Richard's been reaching out to my business partners too, suggesting I'm being manipulated by you." My phone vibrates. A text from Richard. "Your grandfather isn't well. This legal battle could kill him." I show Thomas the message. He laughs without humor. Interesting concern from a man who's been stealing from both of us for years. Later that day, the administrative office at University of Colorado is a maze of bureaucracy I wasn't prepared to navigate. The registrar peers at me over reading glasses. "We need your previous financial aid records, Mr. Carter. Your father needs to complete these forms." I explain the situation for the third time this week. He's refusing to provide the information because of ongoing legal issues. She sighs. "Then you'll need to file as an independent student. That requires tax returns showing you've been supporting yourself." "I have those," I say, pulling out my meticulously organized folder. "But the academic transcripts are incomplete because he intercepted your mail," she finishes, finally understanding. That complicates things. Later, in my temporary room at Thomas's house, I stare at the ceiling. The mattress is too soft after years on a cheap futon. The quiet too complete after apartment walls thin enough to hear neighbors arguing. Everything feels wrong, like wearing someone else's shoes. My phone chirps with an email notification. Anonymous one-star reviews have appeared for Thomas's business overnight. Unethical business practices. Avoid this company. The timing isn't subtle. A text from Liam follows. "I didn't know about any of this, I swear. Please drop this lawsuit. It's destroying our family." I set the phone down without responding. The Liam, who benefited from my exclusion for years, suddenly wants unity when his comfort is threatened. I walk to the study where my drafting materials are spread across a desk that's mine to use for as long as I need. The space still feels borrowed, temporary. My hand hovers over the pencil, doubt freezing my fingers mid-air. Years of hearing I wasn't good enough echo in my head. Maybe I don't belong in this program. Maybe Richard was right about my limitations. The door creaks open. Thomas looks in, then steps back. "Sorry to interrupt." "You're not," I say, still staring at the blank paper. He nods, understanding, then leaves. 10 minutes later, I notice a folder on the edge of the desk that wasn't there before. Inside are blueprints, early designs from Thomas's career, with a notepaper clipped to the corner. "I see the same spark in you. Remember, buildings need strong foundations, so do lives. Take your time." Something loosens in my chest. "Your grandfather looks tired," Richard says the moment he walks into the lawyer's office on the confrontation day. His voice carries the same false concern he used when explaining why my college applications hadn't received responses. This stress isn't good for him. Tracy sits beside him, designer purse clutched in white-knuckled hands. Her eyes dart between Thomas and me, calculating odds. "How long have you been living beyond your means?" I ask, keeping my voice neutral. Richard's face hardens. "We're not here to discuss our finances." "Actually, we are." I open my folder methodically. I have the property records, bank statements, and altered photos. The house purchased with Thomas's money. The monthly support payments you claimed were for my living expenses. The photoshopped family gatherings where I supposedly enjoyed the benefits of the house. Tracy's composure cracks first. "We've had expenses you don't understand. Liam's education, medical bills. The lifestyle expected of someone in Richard's position." "Expected or inflated?" Thomas asks. "We needed support," she admits, gaze dropping to her lap. "We became dependent on your help." Richard attempts to regain control. "This is ridiculous. The money was a gift to help the entire family." The wire transfer memo specifically stated, "Ethan's house," I interrupt, sliding the bank record forward. And your signature is on these forms redirecting my scholarship funds. He has no answer. Next day, the architecture department at Carter Development occupies the east wing of Thomas's building. Marcus Bennett, Thomas's business partner for 30 years, examines my portfolio with unexpected interest. These residential concepts show promise, he says, lingering over my sustainable housing sketches. Thomas mentioned you're enrolled at UC Denver? I nod, surprised by his genuine attention. We have an internship opening in the architecture division. Part-time, works around university schedules. He closes my portfolio, decision made. Interest? Absolutely, I say, fighting the urge to question my worthiness. At the university, Emma Ramirez stops me after design fundamentals class. Her confident stride and portfolio covered in climate-conscious architecture stickers caught my attention during orientation. Professor Winters mentioned you're preparing for the Henderson Showcase, she says. I presented last year. Want help prepping? Why would you help me? The question escapes before I can filter it. She shrugs. Your preliminary designs show promise. And Thomas Carter is legendary in sustainable development. I'd kill for that mentorship. Her honesty is refreshing after months of smokescreens. Later that week, Thomas introduces me to alumni who become unexpected allies. Former graduates now working at top firms who offer advice on portfolio development. Practicing architects who share insights on breaking into the field. You've built an impressive network, I tell Thomas as we drive home. People respect integrity and talent, he replies. You have both. That night, reviewing case documents before bed, I find myself thinking beyond immediate legal victories. I don't just want the house back, I tell Thomas, setting down the folder. I want them to understand what it feels like to build something and have it taken away. He studies me for a long moment. Justice, not vengeance. Justice with consequences, I clarify. And then I want to build something lasting. I file the civil suit on a Tuesday morning, watching as the clerk stamps each meticulously prepared document. 2 years of theft, documented in black and white. Property records matching Thomas's wire transfer. Bank statements showing suspicious withdrawals. College funds diverted. My attorney, Marion Keyes, stands beside me, her posture confident as she presents the evidence we've spent months compiling. This is thorough, the clerk says, leafing through our filing. Judge Harrison's on the bench this month. He doesn't tolerate games. Perfect, Marion replies, catching my eye with a slight nod. Later that afternoon, we meet with Sunrise Mortgage, the company that financed my father's house purchase. The loan officer reviews our documentation, his expression growing increasingly troubled. This application states the down payment came from personal savings, he says, pointing to Richard's signature. Not a gift or transfer from family. I maintain my composure, while satisfaction settles in my chest. The wire transfer from my grandfather was explicitly designated for my house, not theirs. That evening, I finished the digital timeline I've been constructing. A precise chronology of deception spanning years. Each doctored photo paired with the original. Each diverted payment tracked to its final destination. Each staged family gathering exposed. I share it with Thomas's side of the family first, then my mother's relatives. By morning, my phone fills with messages of support and shock. I always wondered why you weren't at the lake house last summer, my cousin writes. Richard told everyone you were too busy with work to join. Thomas calls from his office. The trust fund is established, he says. Ironclad terms. No one can access it except you, and only for education and housing. Thank you, I say. The word's inadequate for the stability he's given me. It's what should have happened 2 years ago, he replies. 3 days after our filing hits the court system, Richard makes his first countermove. My phone buzzes with Marion's name. Your father's trying to sell the house, she says without preamble. Listed it yesterday at below market value. Quick cash grab before the courts freeze it, I observe. Too late, Marion replies, satisfaction coloring her voice. We've already placed a lien on the property. He can't sell without clearing the litigation first. That evening, Tracy calls Thomas. I sit beside him as he answers on speakerphone, recording app running as we discussed. This has gotten out of hand. Tracy says, her voice honey-sweet. Richard made some mistakes, but Ethan's always been part of our family. We've supported him since he was 8. Thomas meets my eyes, his expression granite. You mean after his mother died and you moved into her home? We gave him a roof over his head for 15 years. Tracy continues. Food, clothes, Everything a growing boy needs. You provided the legal minimum for a child in your care, Thomas replies evenly, after taking funds explicitly meant to give him a foundation for adulthood. After Tracy hangs up promising to talk sense into Richard, Thomas sends the recording to Marion. Another piece of evidence documenting their strategy, reframing parental obligation as extraordinary generosity. 2 days later, Richard requests a meeting. Marion advises against it, but I want to see his face. We meet at the courthouse coffee shop, neutral ground with plenty of witnesses. This is ridiculous, Richard says, sliding into the chair across from me. I raised you, put a roof over your head, clothes on your back. That house purchase benefited you too. How? I ask, keeping my voice level. I was paying rent on Hawthorne while you lived in a house bought with money meant for me. Richard leans forward, lowering his voice. Child support isn't free. Room and board for 15 years more than covers what Thomas sent. I let the statement hang in the air, its absurdity speaking for itself. Is that what you're telling your colleagues at Brunswick Financial? His expression flickers, confirming what Marion discovered yesterday. Brunswick placed him on unpaid leave pending resolution of character concerns after our filing reached their compliance department. You've made your point, Richard says, voice hardening. What will it take to end this quietly? Complete transparency, I answer. Full accounting of every dollar taken. Public acknowledgement of what happened. Impossible, he mutters, pushing away from the table. I watch him leave, shoulders rigid with indignation. The man who taught me that appearance matters more than substance is finally facing the substance of his actions. The following week brings unexpected allies. Judge Mariana Velasquez, a friend of Thomas's from law school days, invites me to lunch. She offers no comments on my specific case, instead sharing wisdom about navigating the justice system with integrity. The courts can address the financial damage, she tells me, but rebuilding your sense of trust requires different tools. That same day, the court appoints a financial examiner to trace the money trail. Within 48 hours, he discovers Richard diverted funds from other relatives as well. Smaller amounts, explained away as investment opportunities that never materialized. In days to come, the University Ethics Committee, hearing about my case through faculty connections, invites me to speak at a symposium on financial abuse within families. I hesitate, wary of exposure, until Professor Hadley points out the value of bringing hidden patterns into the light. Your architectural perspective is particularly valuable, she says. You understand how hidden structural flaws eventually compromise the entire building. When Stillwater Design Group approaches me about collaborating on affordable housing concepts, I initially suspect Thomas's influence. But the portfolio review focuses entirely on my work, not my connections. The resulting partnership generates positive coverage in industry publications. My designs featured based on merit, not sympathy. As evidence mounts in our favor, I wonder, should I push for maximum financial recovery? Or would showing selective mercy demonstrate I was nothing like my father? The question lingers as Richard's life unravels with systematic precision. Brunswick Financial terminates his employment after court proceedings reveal multiple ethics violations extending beyond our case. Former clients come forward with concerns about account discrepancies. Tracy files for divorce 3 days later, her attorney citing Richard's pattern of deception as grounds. The filing carefully positions her as another victim rather than accomplice, though our evidence clearly shows her active participation. Liam calls on a Sunday morning, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. He's been placed on university probation after the financial revelations triggered an audit of his scholarship paperwork. They're making me get a job, he says, disbelief evident. 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore. I say nothing, remembering my 60-hour weeks between warehouse shifts and classes. I didn't know, he continues. About the money from Grandpa, I swear. What would you have done if you had known? I ask. The long silence that follows is answer enough. By month's end, family friends begin reaching out. People who attended Richard and Tracy's dinner parties, vacationed at their lake house. They share stories now. Richard borrowing money never repaid. Tracy disparaging me to explain my absence from family events, small deceptions that, viewed collectively, reveal a pattern I recognize too late. We should have questioned more. My mother's old friend tells me, you deserved better advocates. I accept their support without resentment. Like Thomas taught me, I'm building my future on a foundation of truth rather than appearances, the most essential architectural principle of all. Next month, Richard's terminal illness announcement arrives by email at 3 in the morning on Wednesday. I stare at my laptop screen, reading his desperate plea about needing expensive treatments not covered by insurance. The timestamp reveals he sent it after the hospital's business hours, conveniently when medical records would be unavailable for immediate verification. "They're getting creative," Thomas says when I show him the message over breakfast. His reading glasses perch on the end of his nose as he scrolls through Richard's detailed description of his supposed condition. Notice he doesn't name the specific illness or treatment facility. I nod, adding the email to our evidence folder. He wants us to react emotionally rather than logically. The second attempt comes 3 days later when Tracy calls. I let it go to voicemail, then listen with Thomas beside me. "Ethan, I was manipulated too." Her voice trembles perfectly. "Richard controlled all the finances. I never knew where that money came from. We could start fresh, rebuild what we lost." Thomas raises an eyebrow. That contradicts her sworn statement about helping manage family accounts. I delete the message without returning the call. The settlement proposal arrives through their lawyer the following week. The terms are printed on heavy cream-colored paper, professional and reasonable at first glance. I keep the house, but drop all other financial claims and sign a non-disclosure agreement. They're offering what's already legally mine while trying to silence me. I tell Thomas as we review the document with our attorney. They don't want me talking to other family members who might have been deceived too. The final move comes when Richard appears on the local news a week later. I watch from my apartment as he sits across from a sympathetic reporter, eyes downcast. "My wealthy father-in-law has launched a vendetta against me," he says, voice breaking strategically. "All I ever wanted was to provide for my family, including my son." I turn off the television. He's setting the stage for public sympathy before the hearing. Thomas places a hand on my shoulder. "Let's focus on facts, not performance." On the confrontation day, the courtroom feels smaller than I expected. Richard and Tracy sit across the aisle, both wearing expressions of practiced concern. Richard clutches a folder of medical documents prominently labeled "Confidential Medical Records." Our attorney rises first. "Your Honor, we've subpoenaed Mr. Carter's medical records from all major hospitals and specialists in the region." Richard shifts in his seat. "These records show no diagnosis of any terminal condition within the past 18 months. She continues, placing the verified medical documentation before the judge. "Mr. Carter appears to be in excellent health according to his last physical 3 weeks ago." The judge examines both sets of documents, his expression hardening as he compares them. Richard's attorney attempts to object, but the fabrication is too obvious to defend. When my turn comes to address the court, I speak without notes. My architecture training has taught me that every structure must stand on its own merits, just like the truth. 2 years ago, my grandfather wired $480,000 to my father, specifically to purchase a house in my name. That house was never transferred to me. Instead, my father and stepmother lived in it while sending my grandfather doctored photos suggesting I lived there too. I present each piece of evidence, methodically bank statements, property records, the falsified family photos sallowing facts rather than emotion to make my case. I've lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with bad plumbing, working night shifts to pay for occasional architecture classes, while they lived in a house purchased with money intended for my future. The judge's ruling comes swiftly. The house title is to be transferred to me immediately, with additional damages awarded for educational opportunities lost and emotional distress. As we exit the courthouse, Thomas steps before the gathered reporters. "Today, I'm establishing the Foundation for Educational Justice, a scholarship fund specifically for students overcoming family adversity," he announces. "Sometimes the people meant to support you become obstacles instead. This foundation will help rebuild what was taken." I sell the house within a month. The real estate market has improved since the original purchase, netting me enough to fund my education completely and establish a small architectural startup focused on affordable housing innovations. The symmetry isn't lost on me when I learn that Richard and Tracy have downsized to a 1-bedroom apartment similar to my former residence. The building even has the same property management company, known for slow maintenance response and outdated appliances. My university architecture showcase falls on a rainy Tuesday evening. The exhibition hall fills with students, faculty, and industry professionals examining projects displayed on illuminated platforms. My sustainable community housing design occupies the center space of recognition that still feels surreal. Thomas watches from the front row during my presentation, his expression a mixture of pride and vindication. When the department chair announces my project has won the Innovative Design Award, Thomas is the first to stand in applause. As attendees mingle afterward, I spot Liam hovering near my display. He's lost weight, his designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a button-down shirt. "Your design is impressive," he says, hands in pockets. "I've been thinking about what happened. I should have noticed what they were doing to you." I study his face for the tells I've learned to recognize in my father. Finding none, I respond, "Trust is earned through actions." He nods, accepting the boundary without argument. The following months bring unexpected developments. The court orders Richard to perform community service designing maintenance plans for low-income housing, a fitting application of his real estate knowledge to benefit those he previously exploited. Several distant relatives contact me after learning of the case, sharing similar stories of Richard's financial manipulations. I connect them with our attorney and resources that help me navigate the complex emotional and legal landscape. With part of my settlement, I establish a small foundation helping young adults navigate financial independence after family estrangement. The website features simple explanations of financial literacy concepts I had to learn through painful experience. 1 year later, I stand in the kitchen of the apartment I now share with Emma, watching spring rain against the windows. My master's program is nearly complete, and our collaborative affordable housing project has received preliminary approval from the City Council. "Your grandfather's here," Emma calls from the living room. Thomas enters carrying a portfolio of vintage architectural drawings. "Thought you might appreciate these for inspiration," he says, setting them on the counter. I examine the detailed sketches from the 1950s, marveling at their precision without modern tools. "You taught me the difference between revenge and justice is what you build afterward," I tell him. Thomas smiles. "And you're building something remarkable."